Hey folks, this is the Maine Prepper. The Bible says that a good name is to be sought above all things. And I wanted to talk to you this evening about gear reviews and share with you my approach on doing gear reviews. And I do gear reviews on this channel. I want you to know very clearly and very concisely how important my good name and my integrity are. And therefore, to support that, I have a very clear and unambiguous policy and position about gear that I review. I will only review a piece of gear if I have bought it and own it with my own money, or if something like the government or the military issued it to me and it's mine and I have ownership of it. I won't otherwise take a piece of gear, and there's a reason why. And it doesn't mean that somebody that's asking me to review their gear is in any way trying to do something, because I've been asked, and I want to make it very clear. I want to make sure that there is no ambiguity in anyone's mind. It needs to be very clear that even though my gear reviews may be favorable for your equipment, they may not be either. I reserve the right to make an honest and straightforward positional statement on your equipment based not just upon my personal opinion, but upon the suitability of that piece of equipment for the people that I serve. I serve the prepper community as an instructor, and that is my purpose here, and that is what I'm trying to do. I have been a professional instructor in the military for quite some time, but I've been a prepper since 1977. I have run an independent homestead that grew all of its own food. We didn't quite get off the grid, but we got close. It's very hard to do down in Texas when you have a family that needs air conditioning. The amount of solar panels that you would need for that is staggering, and it was just nearly impossible to do. But I digress. My position here then is, anytime you see me reviewing a piece of gear and equipment, is that I own it, that there are no strings attached to it. Why is that so important? Well, number one, I'm not doing gear reviews. That's not going to be the purpose of this channel. I'm not trying to set myself up in business to review equipment. And that's fine if you can manage to affect that and still remain independent. Good for you. Because I'm going to tell you all a story or two here about my personal experiences working in the advertising business back for a short period of time as an intern in the 80s. I was in college working on my degree, and I had gotten off active duty and I was in the reserves. That way I still maintained my time and my rank and everything while I attended college. And I did it in an airborne ranger unit too, so I got to have some fun. The reason that I take this position is because I know the pitfalls and the pressures that are put upon independence. Let me tell you two stories about magazines out there and how this game is played. In a magazine, you have subscribers and you get a certain amount of money from them to sell them your magazine in exchange for it. And hopefully they subscribe, they give an annual subscription. You then take that subscriber base, which is a number, and you publish it. And you hope that some of the bigger companies out there will go, wow, they've got 500,000, or I think Better Homes and Gardens and Good Housekeeping have some of the biggest subscription base. And let me tell you, the amount of money people throw at them to get ad space in that is huge. And the magazine always has to balance out the fact that they've got to keep their subscribers. They cannot lose their subscribers. If they do, they won't get the advertising money, because any advertising company can go out there and just print stuff on paper. That doesn't cost anything. It's getting that paper in front of somebody that's going to buy. It's so expensive. That's why so much money is spent on television commercials, because they've got to get that information in front of somebody that could buy. If I just go and have homeless people putting circulars in the door, or teenage kids out there putting circulars on your door, what happens to those circulars? You've seen all that junk. You come home from work, you pull it off the door, and you throw it in the trash. It's annoying. Very little of it gets used. However, enough of it does that they think it's cheaper to do that and annoy the whole world than if they try to go out and get a space in a magazine or television space. They probably can't afford either one of those. But back to the magazine. A magazine has to therefore keep its subscribers. It can't annoy its subscribers. So if the magazine sells too much subscription, too much advertising space to advertisers and doesn't have enough content in there, people aren't going to buy it. I don't want to buy 100 pages of commercials. That being said, if the magazine is designed for my hobby and all of the ads in there are relating to my hobby and they're interesting and they're like, here's the price of this, and it talks about it, that makes it worth selling. But if I'm buying a magazine about shotguns and there's pictures in there of something that's got nothing to do with shotguns, I'm going to be a little annoyed, especially if it's something I find offensive or something that I find irritating. You sell me a copy of a gun magazine and it's full of nothing but ads for girls' clothes. Well, great. I know some girls I'll give this to next time, but I'm not going to go down and spend $5 on your magazine. And I'm certainly not subscribing, because who knows what you're selling me next month. Okay, so I think I've established that. So they can't lose their subscribers. They've got to keep their subscription base. And that's what gives them the clout out there with the advertisers. And they say, yeah, we definitely want to market in this, guys. We want a piece of this. Here's where you get into trouble. When you are a company or a magazine that reviews things, such as like a magazine about country living, they will do reviews on tractors and tools and the sort of things that they know their subscribers want to look at, because their subscribers ask for that sort of thing. And that's great. And so what the right way to do it is they will go out and they will buy the tool themselves, or they will rent it, or they will in some way acquire it independently, and they will do a review on it. And they are free when they do that. They can take that thing out and throw it under the bus, and they can say, don't ever buy it, and not only that, but don't buy anything this company makes. Or they can say, this is our pick of the year. Now, they're usually pretty careful about these things. They make sure they don't just throw everybody under the bus, because then people will stop buying things, and that's not good. So what they do is they go out and they carefully pick, and they try to get a range, all right, which makes them look credible. They go out and they find stuff, and a really good way to do it is to find something that everybody's buying, okay, that's really good, and you've heard a lot about, and there's a lot of hype around it. And then on the other end, there's something out there that's kind of got a reputation for being bad, and there's a lot of question marks around it, and so they will clear that up. And that's going to probably boost their subscriptions. That's going to be great. Here's where the problem comes in. What if that company whose piece of equipment you determine to be a piece of junk happens to be one of your advertisers? Well, here's what happens. They throw a connection fit and they pull their advertising from you. Here's the other side of the equation. What if that company that you gave the big wet kiss to happens to be an advertiser with you? Well, then it makes your glowing review look a little suspicious, and you may start losing subscribers for that one. So that's a really tough call to make when they do these type of issues. I have seen some very blatant and egregious abuses done in here. The worst one I ever saw was a giant wet kiss of a review done by a magazine, and it was for a tractor. Several of them, but their pick of the year was some John Deere tractor. And really, I had looked at it already, and it was not all that in a bag of salty potato chips. It was, in fact, a piece of junk with the John Deere name on it. And I was disappointed, because I used to be a die-hard John Deere man, and I had an old John Deere I had rebuilt from the ground up that I loved dearly, no pun intended. And here was this glowing review, which is fine in and of itself, even though I disagree. But what really made me unsubscribe from that magazine was on the other page. I mean, right in there. I mean, they didn't even try to hide it. You talk about just in your face. They were just so sold out to John Deere. The other side, you flip it open, okay, one side is the review saying sliced bread the wheel and fire and the John Deere whatever tractor, and here was a full-page glossy ad for that same tractor. And I thought, why don't you just use the same picture while you're at it? I mean, gosh, it was a total sellout. And after that, I unsubscribed. I will never buy that magazine. I won't say who it is, but I will never buy that magazine because what a waste, what a ripoff. Let's flip over to the other side of this coin now and give you another example so that you'll have a kind of a benchmark. So now you kind of see, I'm trying to give you a little bit of insight so you don't get clipped, okay? Because as your instructor, I think it's incumbent upon me that I teach you effectively all things that pertain to the mission at hand. I think it's Backwoods Magazine, and I own every issue of this magazine. Bought myself, and it's a great resource material. And I own almost all of the old Mother Earth Newses. I've got extensive collections on both of these. If you don't know what these are magazines that have all these how-to articles for people that are doing homesteading. Mother Earth News is more aimed at homesteading, but Backwoods Magazine is really great because they're kind of with us, on a lot of issues, including a lot of things about freedom and independence. So right on. So I'm listening to the story, and what happened was they had like an annual contract with one of these log home manufacturers, and that's good because that's what people that are into the backwoods thing are buying, and that's wonderful. And so it was a pretty good little chunk of advertising money coming in, and they had already cashed the check, which you have to do when you're running a small magazine. It's hand to mouth, and they're probably out there having to mow lawns and stuff in the evenings just to keep the lights on some months. Because it gets tight. Print and advertising is a tight, not a very lucrative field. The people that are doing it because they kind of like it usually, especially backwoods. Because when they do an article, they use themselves in there as the test case because they live this stuff. They're experts because they love it. One of their reviewers. One of their authors did a critical review of this company in there. They included a spread of them, and they pretty much, now it wasn't a slam, it wasn't like he went out there and just, got a machine gun out and a flamethrower and just burned them down. He just, he said it's not good for this, good for this. And he didn't give them like a big wet kiss. And apparently they thought that their advertising dollar not only bought them the amount of column space that they got or the size of the page, they also thought that it entitled them to get all this extra free stuff in the form of basically a disingenuous review. And they were trying to mess with the credibility of this author whose reputation and name were on the line now. And now they're putting him on the line, and they're saying, well, what he needs to do is retract this, and he said, I refuse to put a retraction in because the only way he would have put a retraction in, he's an honest guy, he only would have done it if they would have proven him wrong. And they couldn't prove him wrong. They were just saying they didn't like somebody being critical. And they tried to argue that he had seen it wrong, but he looked at what they said, and he came back and said, I would love to be able to say that I missed it, but I was right. My review stands. And they pulled their ad and threw a fit. And of course, they turned into ankle biters, too. An ankle biter is somebody that when they lose, they don't go, wow, okay, I lost. They go back home and they steam and they plot revenge, and they start doing crazy stuff. They start coming around and just any way they can. They just start sniping at you, and they started doing that to this good magazine. So I share all that with you so that you'll understand why I put my policy out now, because I'm just starting to do gear reviews, and I want it to be known to the world and everybody else. I will be doing a lot of gear reviews, but I'm not trying to be a gear reviewer. I need to do these gear reviews in support of my mission here as your instructor. Everything that I look at from the perspective of a prepper. And I will tell you if something's completely worthless. And I've done that once already, and it was with a ration. And I'm about to get some other rations in here, and I'm going to be looking at them, including some freeze-dried stuff. The new LERP, it's actually sort of a translation, supposed to be a combination of the LRP, which is long-range patrol, which is kind of like a cold weather ration, but it's freeze-dried. I'm going to get in here and do a very straight up review on it, and I'm hoping that it's going to be great stuff. If it's not, I'll tell you exactly, and I'm going to tell you what's in it. One of the things that bothers me about this is when I looked on the websites that are all selling this, nobody was putting up that nutritional chart that I've showed you on the back of some other things. You know, it says how many calories, what the calories are from, how much from fat, how much from protein, how much from this and this and this. And I'm looking for that because those of you that have seen my stuff, you know that I teach nutrition as well as exercise and diet, and I know a little bit about this because I teach this to soldiers and I get them on remedials. So when you try to sit here and obfuscate with me and pettifog and tell me, well, we got 2,400 calories in there, that's good enough. Actually, no. I know exactly what I'm talking about, especially for people that are trying to get the right kind of calories to survive a tough thing like bug out. All right, folks, this has been the Maine Prepper. This is my rant about gear reviews. My integrity is important to me. My good name is to be sought above all other things, and to that note, I hope that you will find me true to my word. I'm not trying to sell you anything here. The Army pays me my living right now, and they will be paying me a retirement one day or a disability if they can't fix what's wrong, what got broke, as they say. And if that happens, things will change. I may have to go find something to do. I may stay here. I may go off and become a professional instructor somewhere. I'm sure I can probably find something to do in that vein. I would love to stay here as long as possible, not necessarily in this room, but I'd love to stay in the position of being able to be your instructor as long as possible. And I'm working on that. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Hope you check out my book. It's another way that I teach, and the way I teach in the book is when I'm talking to you right now directly, what happens is parts of our brain, we block things out. It's just our nature, and our attention span starts to kick in. You see me looking out here at the thunder and lightning, even though the sky is clear. It's really strange. And there's a bird trying to fly into my window. So even I'm distracted, and I'm teaching the class. Okay. I know that if I teach in the form of a story, that you listen from a different angle. And I know if I teach from a book that you might be interested in, and there's a little suspense, and that you're following, you're going to engage in a different way. And so that's why the book is up there. I hope you'll have a look at it, listen, and it will be published in audio format. And my intention is to keep it on this channel always for free, consecutive format. You can actually go to the playlist down there and turn it on, and it'll play front to rear. That may be too much of me at one time, but if you can stand it, you can play it that way. When the book is finished, I may publish electronically on Kindle. I don't know, I have to look into this more. I haven't thought about that part too much, but my ultimate goal is I'm an illustrator. I want to illustrate my book, and I want to publish my book with my own illustrations in there. That's kind of been a dream of mine. This has been in my mind for over 10 years. Thanks for listening to me rant and rave. If you're still here, good for you. And thank you also, Southern Prepper. Ever since you and Haas USMC put a shout out, I have doubled the number of people that I'm reaching with this message. So thank you all so much for your support. Haas and Southern Prepper are my brothers. All right, bye.